G.I.A Automotive 2011 Kia Soul. I'm doing the lower control arms. I'm doing the outer tie rods, brake pads, and rotors. So I got this outer, this lower control arm out. This here, you gotta bang it out. You're gonna use one of these punches here, and over here is a 17 millimeter, and this one's a 19 millimeter. And let's go down here. We'll install it here. So let's see. Then I got everything lined up. Now give it a little tap. Okay, that hole's lined up. Okay, that ball joint went in. So to line up the screw on this one, you can put a screwdriver in the hole and pry it to that area you want it to go. Okay. That one's lined up. Not yet, almost. Let's do the same. Let's take this back out. Go backwards here for a second. Balljoint is in there good. So put the lower balljoint in last. Sure that you got these bolts lined up first. This one needs a hammer like this. Now that one's gonna go in. Okay, that's ready. Just a little low. Okay, there's that one. It's a 17 mil. Let's give it a turn or two just to make sure it caught. And let's go line up the other one. Okay, now let's make sure this one lines up too on here, and then the lower balljoint will be the last one. And Okay, that set it into place. Go the other way. Okay, that looks good. It looks like we'll be able to slide it through there. All right. A little patience. It still hasn't caught, but it's in there now. So that has went through. There's a knot on the top that it catches. So okay, so here's a nut for that bolt that we want to tighten up. Let's see what's going on over here. Let's look at it together. So it looks like the top is not lining up. Pry it a little bit. This was the objective, to get it through there. It's supposed to be tight. It's certain you shouldn't be able to move that. You are driving. That rubber bushing should hold your suspension tight. That's the whole purpose of that thing being tight. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put my pry bar up on here on the top part right there, and as you can see, it's a little cocked on the top. I'm gonna pry it. All right. Still don't want to go on. That's, there you go. Alright. I got that up there. Now let's put the nut on the top. Get it to catch. It's a 19 millimeter, so you get a 19 millimeter on the top of that nut, and I'm going to use the drill on the bottom. Alright, so I got it locked down with my wrench on the top. Okay. Let's go to this side over here and let's do the 17. Start it off. Let's put this one on here now. Give it a little tap, just a little one. That's in. Put your new bolt. Came with a new bolt. We're gonna put a new one. This one's a 14 mil. Hold it down on the back. Okay, that's tying down. Let's go back over here. This last bolt here. Okay, that's getting tight. I'm going to switch over to the ratchet. 17. I switch off gear wrench to socket. 17 mil is the same size. And sometimes you use whatever fits in the space that you're trying to release that bolt. So now I'm using this long handle 3/8 ratchet. This is good to break loose bolts without using a breaker bar. This flex head is not helping right now the case, but it is helpful when you need it to be flexible. This oil pan guard, this transmission pan plastic thing's in the way, but it's in a way and it's not in the way. Alright, so that's down to the last thread. I'm gonna torque it down now to probably half a turn more. Okay, that's done. Now let's go over here, switch over to a 14. Touch the back, make sure the back is not spinning on the nut for the lower ball joint. There's a nut here, and the bolt in the front. I'm putting my finger on the bolt. Okay, that's done. I'm gonna spray these because we're gonna be removing this rotor today. So I tightened up this one, I tightened up this lower ball joint. Now I'm gonna tighten up this one over here and be done with this one. Okay, that's it. This tight. That's done. Now, alright, this is a tool I use to remove this rotor. This is a hammer impact screwdriver. Sometimes these screws are real hard to get out. So let's see. See how hard they are today. There's one. There's the other one. Without this tool, you'll be breaking your screwdrivers. See, I won't even come out. Now, remove these screws all the way out. These screws are on here because when they're building the cars on the assembly lines, they put the rotors on first. They don't put the caliper on right after the rotor. So they slap on the rotors and it continues on the conveyor belt. And those screws are there to hold that rotor on as it travels down the assembly belt. Alright, so take your 2 screws off for the caliper here. It's a 14 millimeter. Never let the caliper hang. Okay. Keep your eyes on a good angle here. Okay. These 2 bolts, 17 mil. Most of the time imports, if you're working on Japanese, Korean cars, most of the time it will be a 14 or a 17 millimeter all the time. 14 or 17. So here's a 17 and this one's got that thing in the inside. So I got that one out. Let's put this here. Go a pry bar. Okay. There's that one. It's a lot easier with a pry bar. Sitting down, I'm not getting up, getting all my leverage. See that? So now use this one. Notice that washer. Let's put back the washer. Watch this caliper, it's going to try to hang on you. There's the caliper bracket. You see this rotor's not going to want to come out. You got to hammer it out. So what I do is I hang the caliper out here somewhere, out of the way for a second, and I'm gonna hit this back here. Okay, landed on the caliper. Okay, let's get here. Hammer the rotor in the front. Watch this caliper. Don't do what I just did a minute ago. Okay, so here's that one. She was due for rotors. So I just cleaned off the oil that is on the rotors when they sell them to you. There's a little coating of oil on there so there's no surface rust when you buy it. Clean that off. You know what, before we do this, let's get this outer tie rod out of the way. I'm gonna Okay, I'm gonna lower this jack out of the way, and got this jack stand underneath to support it, and let's go back up and push that jack a little. That jack stand. Too far out. Let's put him just a little bit. Just a little bit. A little bit more. Okay, I guess that's good enough there. And come back down. Slow. Slow. get the jack out of the way. So I'm gonna show you guys the last trick, and then I'm gonna end this video. I'm gonna remove this outer tie rod, and then I'm gonna press in the piston, which you already seen in different videos, and then I'm gonna grease up my pins, clean the hardware, and grease the hardware up, and then that's it. This side will be done. Then I'm gonna do the passenger side. All right, so let's get this out of the way, and I'll show you how I remove this outer tie rod.